for the great senator out of the state of Vermont. Let's put our hands together for Prairie Sanders. Introduction, and most of all, to thank you for coming out here tonight. Brothers and sisters, we are in a pivotal moment in American history. And it seems to me that we have two options in front of us. One is to say that the problems that we are facing, and you heard some of them already being discussed this afternoon, they are so overwhelming, they are so difficult, the opposition is so strong, so wealthy, so powerful, that we're going to give up and go home. That's one option, but there is another option that says in the greatest nation in the history of the world, we are going to stand up, fight back, and create an America we know we can become. And one of the great crises that we face is that as a nation, our media by and large, and certainly in Congress, we are not discussing the real issues facing working people in this country. And when people go to work in Texas or Vermont and they're working 2 or 3 jobs, when people are making $30,000 or $40,000 a year and they can't afford to pay $15,000 or $10,000 for childcare for their babies. When you are 60 years of age and you have worked your entire life and you find you got nothing in the bank as you face retirement. When you are a worker who has worked in a plant for your whole life and one day they send you an email and they say, thank you for your service, but we're moving your plant to China or to Mexico. When you are a 20-year-old kid who has done well in high school, desperately wants to get a college education, but can't afford to get that education because your family doesn't have enough money. When you are 40 years of age, and you've been paying off outrageously high levels of student debt, you want Congress to be dealing with those issues. You want a discussion about those issues. But what thank you. But you're getting to my second point. And the second point is that it is not about Bernie, and it is not about any other politician. It is about you. And this is the most important point that I want to make this afternoon. We can transform this country. We can do extraordinary things in this country, but we cannot do it when we have one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth. We cannot do it when in 2014 in the midterm elections, almost 2 out of 3 Americans did not vote. We cannot do it when most Americans don't even know the name of their U.S. member of Congress. When many people don't even know which political party controls the House and the Senate. So what we need to do together is to revitalize American democracy, to make our neighbors and our families and our co-workers understand that politics is not a basketball game, it's not a baseball game, it is not a movie, it is not entertainment. It is what is going to happen to your lives. And you can make the choice. You can make the choice of allowing the Koch brothers and the billionaire class to make the decisions, or you and millions of others in this great state and around this country, that we stand up together. We determine the future of this country. So we have got to involve people in an unprecedented way in the political process. We owe that, by the way, to the men and women who fought and died to defend American democracy. And we must fight to make sure that the Democratic Party becomes a 50-state party, that we do not turn our backs in any area of the country. I have read some people say, well, you know, we can't win in that state. It's a red state. It's a conservative state. I don't believe that. Not for a minute. When you got people working longer hours for lower wages, when you got right-wing governors attempting to throw people off of health insurance and give tax breaks to billionaires, don't tell me we cannot win in each and every state in this country, including the great state of Texas. And what we have got to do, and you have got to do as American citizens, is open the doors of the Democratic Party and come on in. Working people, young people, come on in. We need you. We need your energy. We need your ideas. And our job is to create a party that is led by working people in this country, black and white and Latino and Native American and Asian American. We need a party that reflects the diversity of this country, of women and men, of gay and straight. Come on in. But in my view, we are not going to create that party. We're not going to get people involved unless we make it clear as to what the Democratic Party stands for, and that must be a party that has the guts to take on the billionaire class, to take on the greed of Wall Street, of the drug companies, of the insurance companies, of the fossil fuel industry. And of the other powerful interests whose greed is destroying the middle class of this country. Now, all of us know, personally we do know, people who are addicted to alcohol, people who are dealing with drug addiction, people who are dealing with other types of addiction. But there is another type of addiction that we don't talk about a whole lot as a nation, and that is the addiction of greed on the part of the billionaire class. Now, for the love of me, I do not understand, never have, and I don't think I ever will, how you can have people who are worth billions of dollars. They got all the yachts and the jet planes and the mansions that they need. Why is it that they want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid and get more tax breaks to become even richer? That greed is a sickness. And we have got to tell them that we are going to have an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. The brothers and sisters, it is not only an economy which is rigged, it is not only the fact that we have the most unequal distribution of wealth and income of any major country on earth. It is not only an economic issue, it becomes a moral issue. And as a people, we have got to ask ourselves a very simple question. Do we feel that it is morally appropriate that the top 1/10 of 1% now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%? Is it appropriate that the 20 wealthiest people, 20 people, own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people? Is it appropriate that one family, the Walton family of Walmart, one family owns as much wealth as the bottom 42% of the American people? One family. And by the way, to tell you what a rigged economy is about. Now, I know that a lot of my Republican colleagues, they're really tough on welfare. Oh my goodness. They want to go after all of the welfare recipients. They want to go after the single moms and the children and all that. I understand that. Well, if you want to go after welfare recipients, why don't you go after the Walton family, the largest recipient of welfare in the United States of America? And that is what a rigged economy is about. A rigged economy is about the largest, one of the large companies in America, owned by the wealthiest family in America, who pays their workers wages that are so low that many of those workers end up on Medicaid, food stamps, and in subsidized housing. So I say to my Republican colleagues, if you want real welfare reform, get the Walton family off of welfare, have them pay their workers a living wage. But it is not just a horrific and immoral distribution of wealth. It also is a grossly unfair distribution of income. And what that means is that all over Texas, all over Vermont, you got mom working long hours, you got dad working long hours, you got children working long hours when they should be studying, and yet 52% of all new income generated today goes to the top 1%. So here is a radical idea. Texas, you ready for a radical idea? We're going to create an economy that works for working people, not the billionaire class. But when we talk about the problems facing our country, it's not only a rigged economy, it is a corrupt political system. Now, I come from a state where every March we have town meetings, and people come together and they argue about how much they're going to spend on the roads, and how much they're going to spend on the schools, and how much they're going to spend on this and that. And then people take a vote. And it is one person, one vote. And in my view, that's what democracy is about. But as a result of this disastrous 5-4 Supreme Court decision on Citizens United, that's not what democracy is about. The billionaire class does not put their money underneath the mattress. The billionaire class is putting their money into buying elections. And as a nation, we have got to determine whether our democracy is about billionaires like the Koch brothers and others spending hundreds of millions of dollars to buy elections for candidates who will represent the rich and the powerful, or whether American democracy means one person, one vote. And our job, in my view, is to overturn this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. And it is to move to public funding of elections. If you want to run for office, and I want you to run for office, I don't want you to have to hustle money from some wealthy people. I want you to be able to get out there and talk to your constituents about the important issues that you face. Candidates talking to people, involving people in the process. That's democracy, not hustling money from billionaires to buy elections. And when we talk about revitalizing American democracy and bringing people into the political process at every level of government, it is absolutely imperative that we have a progressive agenda that speaks to the needs of working people. I can't get you involved, and you're not going to get involved in the political process unless you are standing up and fighting for something that is real, that will change your lives. So what does that mean in real terms? What it means is that we have got to take a hard look at the real issues and how we go forward. In my view, health care is a right of all people, not a privilege. What does that mean? It means that despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, which added 20 million Americans to the ranks of the insured, a very positive development, but despite that, 28 million Americans still have no health insurance, and many of you here this afternoon have high deductibles and high co-payments. There are millions of Americans who can't afford to go to the doctor even though they have health insurance because of those co-payments, because of those deductibles. Now, meanwhile, and I bet most Americans don't know this, all over the world, in every major country on earth, those governments have said that health care belongs to all of their people. They have said there is no room for insurance companies whose only goal is to profit off of human illness. So you know what I think? I think it is time for the United States to join the rest of the industrialized world and guarantee health care to all through a Medicare for all single-payer system. you know what? And I speak to my conservative friends here in Texas. If you are a conservative, you should support Medicare for all because it is the most cost-effective way to provide health care to the people. There is no reason why we are spending 2 times per capita than the Canadians and almost 3 times more than the British when they provide health care to all of their people. So let us stand up and say that Medicare, a popular program working well now for 65-year-olds and older, we are going to make that program available to all Americans. You think you could fight for that and take that message to your neighbors? And here's something else that we gotta take to our neighbors, including those people who voted for Donald Trump, because the people who voted for Trump are also getting ripped off by the pharmaceutical industry, which charges us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Right now in Texas, in Vermont, and all over this country, 1 out of 5 people who go to the doctor cannot afford to fill the prescriptions their doctors write. That is nuts. That is crazy. People come home, they only get sick, and they end up in the emergency room. Maybe they end up in the hospital. Maybe they die because they are getting ripped off by the drug companies who are charging us the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. Let us stand together, conservatives, progressives, Democrats, Republicans, independents. Tell the pharmaceutical industry the days of ripping off the American people are going to end. In America today, we have millions of working people who are struggling to get by economically despite working 40, 50, or 60 hours a week. And the reason for that is that wages in this country are too damn low. I have talked to people, I have talked to workers making $7.25 an hour. They can't even get 40 hours of work at a fast food restaurant. They get on a bus, they go to another place, trying desperately to cobble together the income and the health care they need. But you know what? Nobody makes it on $7.25 or $8 or $9 an hour. Can't do it. In America, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. And that's why within the next several weeks, I will be introducing legislation to raise the minimum wage $15 an hour. I know that every man in this room will stand with the women to end the absurdity of women making 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. Yeah, women deserve the whole damn dollar, you're right. You know, there's a lot of discussion and chatter going on in Washington about so-called tax reform. And I want to just alert the folks here in Texas who voted for Mr. Trump as to what that reform really means, because I think you may not hear much of that discussion from Republican leaders in the state. When Republicans talk about tax reform, What they are saying is that we should provide many hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 1%. And then they are saying, well, we have got to cut back on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, federal aid to education. See, people think that we live in a country where you got blue states like Vermont and kind of red states like Texas. I don't believe it. I honestly, in my heart, don't believe it. Because I do not believe that here in Texas, Vermont, or any other state in the country, that many people think it makes sense to give incredibly large tax breaks to billionaires and then cut back on education or health care or after-school programs. And that's what we have got to do, is expose this Republican agenda to every working person in this country. I know that people are dissatisfied with the status quo and they're angry at Democrats. But very few people believe that we should be giving tax breaks to billionaires and cutting back on programs for the elderly, the children, the sick, and the poor. And I would urge my Senate colleagues from Texas to maybe explain to the people of Texas as to why they think it is a great idea to repeal the Affordable Care Act, throw over 2 million people in this state off of the health care they currently have. Why they think it is a good idea to substantially raise premiums for older workers, or defund Planned Parenthood, or to cut $800 billion in Medicaid. When we talk about a progressive agenda, we understand that in a highly competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And that is why together, and we're making some progress on this, we are going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. And people say, well, that's an expensive proposition. It is. Not quite as expensive as giving tax breaks to billionaires, but it's expensive. How are you going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it through a tax on Wall Street speculation. Now, a lot of my Republican colleagues talk about family values. They just love families. Well, if they love families, they will join me and many Democrats in saying that the United States has got to join almost every other country on earth and guarantee paid family and medical leave. And when we look at the problems that we face as a nation, one of the most serious is a very broken criminal justice system. We should not be in this great and wealthy nation, the country that has more people in jail than any other country on earth. We should not be spending $80 billion a year locking up our fellow Americans. What we should be doing is rethinking the so-called war on drugs. What we should be doing is investing in jobs and education for our young people, not jails jails and incarceration. And when we talk about issues that are on the front burner right now, we are talking about the reality that there are 11 million undocumented people in this country, here in Texas, in my state of Vermont, and all over this country. And these are people today who are living in the shadows, who are living in fear, who are being exploited by their employers because they have no legal rights. And I say to President Trump and his friends, instead of scapegoating those people, let's go forward and pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. And when we talk about the issues that face not only Texas and Vermont and America, but face the whole world, we have got to recognize that climate change is real, that climate change is caused by human activity, and it is already causing devastating problems all over this planet. And I want to congratulate the state of Texas for leading this nation in moving toward wind energy. Texas, as I understand it, now produces more wind energy than the next 3 states combined. And that electricity is clean, it is cheap, it is the future of Texas and America. And we have got to move towards solar, we've got to move toward geothermal. We have got to, for the sake of our kids and our grandchildren, have the guts to take on the fossil fuel industry and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. Now, I know that a lot of people voted for Donald Trump because he went before the people of Texas and he went before the people of America and he said, you know what? I'm a different type of politician. I'm going to stand up for the working class of this country. I am going to take on the establishment. Well, it was good rhetoric, sounded good on TV. Only problem was Mr. Trump lied. It is one thing to give a campaign speech. It is another thing to follow through when you're president. And I say to the president, you are not standing with the working class of this country when you throw 24 million people off of health insurance and raise premiums for all the workers. That's not standing for the working class. You're not standing for the working class when you propose hundreds of billions in tax breaks for the 1%, and then you cut back on the Meals on Wheels program, for God's sakes. Meals on Wheels is a program by which elderly, poor seniors get maybe one nutritious meal a day. Imagine cutting back on Meals on Wheels, not feeding the elderly, and then giving tax breaks for billionaires. What kind of moral compass is that? Or cutting back on after-school programs, eliminating the WIC program for low-income pregnant women and their babies. So I say to those people who voted for Donald Trump based on what he said, forget about what he said look at what he is doing. He said he was going to drain the swamp. You don't drain the swamp by having more billionaires in your administration than any president in American history. He said he was going to take on Wall Street. Well, you don't take on Wall Street by hiring the former president of Goldman Sachs as your chief financial advisor. What our job is to bring the American people together, to not let demagogues divide us up by the color of our skin, the country in which we were born, our religion, whether we are gay or whether we are straight, whether we're male or whether we are female. That is what they're trying to do. Our job is to bring the American people together. Our job is to revitalize the Democratic Party and make it a strong grassroots party. Our job is to get you and you and you to start running for school board, city council, state legislature, Congress. And one of the things the establishment does, and they do it very effectively, they kind of make you think that, you know, you may be a nice person, but you're really not capable of being on the school board or on the state legislature. Well, you know, they try to diminish people's confidence in themselves and their self-esteem and all that. So let me give you some news. I am a United States Senator, and I work in the United States Senate almost every day. And I am around my colleagues every day. And if you think you don't know enough about what's going on, take a look at the United States Congress. Don't think, and I know you don't, that there are a bunch of geniuses there making all these profound and brilliant decisions. Trust me, they are not. You can do it. What is important is not to have a PhD in economics. What is important is to have a heart. You don't need a PhD in economics to know that tax breaks for billionaires and cuts in programs for the elderly and the children and the sick is morally indefensible. So what we need, and the ball is in your court, what we need is not just making fun of Donald Trump, that's easy to do. What we need is not just talking to our friends and moaning and groaning. What we need is to be involved in any and every way we can. I'll give you a story. Last night we were in Miami, and we were staying at a hotel where workers had just a few days before in that hotel signed a union agreement. For years they fought and they struggled and they stuck together, black and white and Latino. And at the end of the day, as a result of that agreement, their wages are going up and their health care costs are going way down. And that's what we can do as a nation. Do not let anybody tell you that when every other major country on earth has health care for all people, we cannot do the same. Don't let anybody tell you that when Germany and Scandinavia and other countries are providing free college and university education to their people, that we cannot do the same. Don't let anybody tell you that when other countries have a minimum wage, which is a living wage, that we cannot do the same. So our job is to understand that in unprecedented times, which is what we are living in right now, We need unprecedented action, and you are the force for that action. There are groups out there like Our Revolution who are working hard to support candidates in Texas and all across this country. Please sign up. There are other great groups as well. But when we involve millions of people in the political process who previously were not involved, I have not the slightest doubt that we will create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Thank you.